true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, hunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies.
Well, good morning. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison, in studio. Yes, we're live here, June the 8th. So, folks, is this Memorex? I get that a lot, Dr. Bradley. Is this live or Memorex? We are live this morning on this beautiful summer day. In studio with me, my brother from another, but my brother in all ways, man. I love you, man. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate you.
I love
Thank you very
man.
much.
You are.
I like that shirt you have on too with the collar there.
Well, I have to add this to your.
Yeah, I'm not as sophisticated as you. Man.
Well, I just recently got this, so I will make sure that one comes your way.
I appreciate you.
I always take care of you, right?
Yep. Well, it's a golf shirt, man. I'm always on the golf course. I can use a golf shirt.
Yeah, I found these, and my mother-in-law put the patch on for me because I was doing a press conference the other day. So I was like, well, I gotta represent MAMLEO, a little flair. So I found this and still had her sewing on, but
that's great.
I got you coming. The doctor is in the house this morning as we're speaking. Good morning, Dr. Bradley. How are you, sir?
I'm here, Doc. It's a day that God gave us, and I'm here to living in His will, man.
Absolutely.
Well.
I appreciate you. And Rhodes, our Rhodes scholar, Rhodes PA, Rhodes off today. His family is in town visiting him from Haiti. So,
Whoa. They were able to get in?
I guess so. I guess they can beat the deadline. I was telling that at midnight they shut down the border.
Yeah, exactly.
So he says he has family in town this weekend.
Good for him.
Enjoy your time with your family. Well deserved. And still engineering and keeping us all on track and on time is our other brother from another, Pastor Hobbs. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Good morning. I'm phenomenal by the grace of God.
There you go, man. That brother is phenomenal, right? So while we have you there, sir, if you wouldn't mind.
Absolutely. Father God, we bless you. We thank you for your grace, your mercy, for being all-powerful, all-knowing, and a very present help in the time of need. Father, bless this broadcast. All that's said and done, that you're glorified in and through it in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. And we want to thank our sponsor, the Money Store, Cora Holbrook. Give her a call at area code 508-345-4726. I guess that's 508-345-4728. That's right. Cora is now at the Money Store. She used to be with Guaranteed Rate. She is now switched over. She's at the Money Store. So if you need some money, give Cora for a mortgage. I said money. Pastor Hobbs was like, you saw all those pearly whites light up. He's like, what's that number again? He's over there.
Well, I'm looking for her to come in with the goodies, man.
Well, she'll be here next week.
Oh, really?
She'll be here next Saturday. Coming
by
in.
the grace of God, so will I.
She texts me. She'll be in next Saturday at 8:00. Her and our brother Samuel Ryan to give us an update on the mortgage situation and housing. It's funny you say that, Dr. Bradley, because she was in and. We were talking. You weren't here. That's right, because we had your extras after the broadcast. We thank you for that. Appreciate that. We were a little hungry that morning too. But at that time, she said the housing cost was the average price of a home in Boston was $900,000, and 3 weeks later it had jumped up to $950,000. So
the average,
it's $950 now in Boston.
Is that close to $1 million?
Brother, I get notices every day because I've been in real estate for a long time, so I'm on the list and I get these updates. And you have because I want to call them closets, right? In the Boston area, I'll show you some of them, and I'm gonna have to put the seatbelt on so you don't fall out the seat. 586 square feet, $1.3 million.
For less than 1,000 feet?
For one bedroom, one bath. Some of them aren't even their studios. That
for $1 million?
$1 million in certain neighborhoods. So that price, and that's in some of the more affluent neighborhoods, but it's pushing into these communities. That's what's driving the prices up to the 950,000.
And also, and that representing justification. You put these people out, And then, oh my God.
Yeah. So
the average person cannot stay.
No, and I put myself in that average. We must be below average because, So it's really gotten bad there. Want to say hearty good morning to Brother Jamal. Good morning to Mr. and Mrs. Harry Scale. Good morning, Brother Dicker. Good morning, Brother Cliff. Good morning, Sister Priscilla. Love that sister. We've been talking a lot. She's back from her little hiatus, little vacation. Good morning to our sister Denise DePina Reed. I keep saying to Dr. Bradley, we definitely have to get her in, even as a guest, but get in or even grab lunch with her very soon.
I agree.
So folks, and if you want to be part of the conversation here this morning, give us a call at 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685 is the call-in number here. And without further ado, Dr. Bradley.
All right.
Well, going back to Indiana. Good morning, Brother Bridgeforth. And sadly, the Celtics will not be going back to Indiana. They have swept them 4 straight. They are now in the finals.
Yeah,
and
they won the first game
convincingly. They took out Dallas. So we were going to come down if they came back, Brother Bridgeforth. But since the Celtics are not coming back to Indiana, we will follow their lead as well. Dr. Bradley. Since we've been on the air, the case against the Orange Man has concluded with 34 convictions of felony. I didn't think it would be that bad, but clearly, the jurors are there, and it's really scary because both of us are in law enforcement background. I recently retired. You have been retired. Your lovely bride is a former law enforcement. And we've always approached it with the approach of, the law. And, we don't always agree with the verdicts. You've been in court sometimes and you've had an opinion about a case and it doesn't go the way that you thought. But that's the jury or the judge, that we respect it. We don't always agree, but we respect it. And we don't go outside on the front steps and attack it, And this is really scary now where, you have people who know better, who know the truth. Yeah. And they're out there.
One of the things that struck me after the verdict for him is the way the Republicans responded. They didn't actually, they responded in such a way that they were attacking the system,
right,
not trying to protect or focus on his personality. It was not about Trump. It was about what the system did to him. Not the fact that like if, for instance, if that were you, I would say that's not Larry.
Right.
That's not the person. I know the individual. That's not his character. They didn't say that.
Right.
They said, oh, the system is bad.
Right. The system is corrupt.
It was rigged.
Right.
It was corrupt. So every time the system is actually holding him accountable, the system is bad.
Right.
When the system doesn't hold him accountable, it's right.
Well, this thing.
How is that?
Right. When the judge down Eileen Cannon, who was ruling in his favor as if she's his cheerleader, she's auditioning for a Supreme Court in case one seat on the Supreme Court in case it opens up, is always ruling in favor of Donald Trump. Like she's even now hearing on whether or not a special counsel is lawful to have one appointed. One's been appointed for years, for decades. Now all of a sudden,
that case has already been solved.
Right.
That particular argument has already been addressed by the court, and it has been upheld by the court.
Right. But this was a tactic. Is Trump is to slow it down because Trump knew and he knows that when the facts get out in front of people, and there were people on the jury who said that all they get their information from was Fox News, Newsmax, all these conservative outlets, and it was a unanimous decision on all counts. It wasn't, well, we have some gray area, or maybe the checks that he didn't sign, we'll give him credit that maybe he didn't know about those payments. All 34. All 34.
Well, I suspect that there were probably going to be some type of a message, some type of push on social media and other places to say that the conviction was rigged.
Well, it's already been.
Okay, that's where I think they're going.
The problem is when you get your information only from one source, it is very difficult. It's the echo chamber, right? And that's all you hear. And then you have him coming on and talking about retribution and going after. I mean, this sounds like, like he's taking his lessons from Hitler, because that's the book he read growing up, and Vladimir Putin, right? Yeah. Because, that's what he does is people that don't agree with him, they go missing, or, he's talking about prosecuting them. I mean, the irony is that during his whole campaign, he was yelling, lock her up, referring to Hillary Clinton. And now here he is. And so my question to you, Dr. Bradley, and to our listening audience as well, is what do you think the judge, because usually when you're convicted, is people, because Trump thinks he's above the law, they start to show some remorse, right? Because before they get sentenced, right? I don't know if you want to go out there talking about the system is rigged and attacking the jurors in a way that he is, and that the system is rigged when these are jurors of your peers. And
well, see, but Trump presents a phenomenon that our justice system has never seen before in the history of this country.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And I think the second thing is that he's playing a different game. So he's taking what happened in the judicial system and in the courtroom and actually using the court of public opinion against that decision, and using that particular court of opinion to actually either change or mitigate or soften the the results of the judicial court. I don't mean to be complicated here. What I'm trying to say is that he presents a problem that our particular criminal justice system has never ever encountered. Now you take that and you and operate on the premise and think through it on the premise that our system has always been, the results has always been accepted. May not have liked it. All throughout history, if you think about it, there are people who got convicted. Like I was wrong. You got many people who are in jail today who didn't do it, just completely innocent. But Trump, because he has this cult-like following, that he's getting away with the things that normal people do not get away with.
Well, one of the things that Trump is very good at is spin, right? And when he knows that he's going to be held accountable, he projects it that somehow they're coming after you, right? And it's not true. So, and people buy into that. And you bring up a very good point, because if the system was rigged and corrupt, then why is the current president, Joe Biden's son, is on trial in federal court? Would he could pardon his son? Do you think if Donald Trump's son was on trial, he wouldn't have already pardoned him before this even got started? Senator Menendez, a senator from New Jersey, is on trial currently. There's another congressman out of Florida or Texas who is on trial. So if the system is rigged and the Democrats are only going after and targeting Republicans, why are these people, the president's own son, it's in federal court. He has the authority, and he was asked directly by a news outlet, would he pardon his son, Beau Biden? Not Beau, would he pardon his son, Hunter? Thank you. And he said no. And he said, would he have the case? He said no. He respects the law, the rule of law.
But if I'm talking to a cult-like member of my movement, I don't even, that person doesn't even see that. He doesn't care about that. It's all about Donald Trump. It's all about what the system is doing to Trump.
Right.
All right. So, but the problem here is, and what I ask myself when I think through this is, what does this mean for our people? And that's the real question.
It really is,
because we have the tendency to shut all this out and say, oh, I'm not going to participate because it's not for me anyway.
Right.
And people, for anyone who's in the in the earshot of my voice, this is not the time to do that, because if this man gets in the office, he's already telling you, he's not actually hiding anything. I got to give that to him. He's saying, this is what I'm going to do. You won't have the rights to vote. So the rights that we're enjoying today, our children will not have those rights.
And to your point, the people that he puts on the courts, we see that, have a longer lasting effect. We're seeing the Supreme Court is more political now than it is judicial.
Well, I think it's corrupt. I mean, as
upside down flags, and
as an academic, and when I look at the history, as a historian, I look at this history. I'm looking at the court decision. We have had times in the court where the court has leaned, left or right, but usually they do not take rights from people.
A stare decisis, they call it. Right.
So they do not take those rights
and
away.
They've already signaled which rights are next. They've already affirmative action, gerrymandering in districts. They were, in South Carolina recently, the decisions down there to leave the maps the way they are, even though the lower courts looked at it and said, hey, you know what, we see what you're doing here. It's not right. And everything, the final stop is the Supreme Court.
But when you look at, the fact that there's no integrity clause,
right?
That's one thing.
Right.
The other thing is that you have someone like a Clarence Thomas who's getting over his tenure over $4 million of contributions or gifts and gratuities to him. How you not have some type of policy that actually govern their behavior around gift and gratuities?
Right. 617-282-0685 is the number. 617-282-0685. You're listening to At the Round Table with Mail. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. In studio, my co-host, my brother from another, the Dr. Bradley, is here. He's giving you a checkup from the neck up. You raised some very good points here. And folks, want to know, do you think you would be getting this fair treatment? Do you think if you were convicted of jaywalking, let alone 34 felony convictions?
Which, by the way, we have a law here in Boston for jaywalking.
It's $1. It's why they don't enforce it. That you would be allowed to then go out and mock the system and attack the system. No, you would have been remanded to jail already. You wouldn't have to wait until your sentencing. But, see, Dr. I say that as well because you're right. I mean, you have a judicial system at the Supreme Court. There is no check and balance. And we understand and people want separation of powers, right? That's why we have 3 separate but equal branches of government. Mm-hmm. But you said something to me that I really didn't pay any much attention to a long time ago until you said it. I didn't realize that the Supreme Court has no enforcement.
No, it doesn't.
So it's been a compliance. And I'm wondering, how long are people going to comply when they see that this is political and not based on the law?
Well, there has been times in history where the Supreme Court has made a decision and the instant response to that was, well, enforce it. Now that you have made it, I'm gonna see you enforce it.
Right.
So that has happened, but that court was not as corrupt as this court is.
Right.
And so when you have a situation where you can look at each justice,
it's the political ideology and not the law.
It's crazy.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so they're supposed to be sharp enough and erudite enough in their education and in their processes to actually separate their political views from the law. That is not happening in the current court, and that's sad.
Right, because the proper thing is that they said voluntarily. If not just whether or not there is any prejudices, right, but the appearance of impropriety, right? Mm-hmm. And with the leader who's now ruling, you're flying an upside down flag at your home, and you're blaming your wife for it, but you see it, you pass it every day. You understand what the symbolism. It was what the insurrectionists were carrying when they attacked the Capitol on January 6th, and you're flying that same flag, the upside down flag, in your home, and you're telling your neighbors this is in support of Donald Trump. His wife had them, but how can people say? And now you're hearing cases involving January 6th defendants on whether or not they're hostages, whether or not they had a right to attack the Capitol in that way. So also, they don't understand. You're setting a precedent because you think if other organizations and other groups see this and they get away with it, you're opening the door for this anarchy and this lawlessness. But the other point, Dr. Bradley, is that you and I been in law enforcement for a long time. We don't sit on a bench. We don't make decisions about whether or not people are guilty or innocent. That we would be held to a higher standard at our level where we don't have the right. We can deprive people of their liberties for a short period of time. They're in custody. But courts, judges in specific, can deprive people of their time. They're the ones who carry out sentencing, how much time you're going to get. I say all this because you and I cannot take any type of gratuities from anyone when we were in law enforcement.
No, not even a cup of coffee.
Exactly.
you get written up if you take a free cup of coffee.
Exactly.
I don't understand how they can get away with it.
And that's my point, is that someone who is making this, imagine, if we were able to take money and say, oh, well, it's not because I let him park, his customers double park out in front of, his business, and, he gives me $100 a week, and he said, this is for your family college tuition, whatever, right? We frame it. We know that they're going to get some favoritism, and you can call it what you want. But because same thing, they were saying that Judge Marchand, who may have donated $30 to the Biden campaign through something, that he is corrupt, right? For the $35. But to your point you were saying earlier, is that you see it from a different lens when it's the folks on the other side who are showing, that they have a bias. There's nothing biased. I thought Judge Marchand, who was the judge presiding over Trump, I thought he did a phenomenal job. I mean, people thought this trial was going to last for months. It was 3 or 4 weeks?
Yeah, I thought he did a phenomenal job as well. But again, and that's evident to the other side because they're attacking the process,
right?
And so, but I want to go back to our people because I think it should be very clear to people that you can't sit on the sideline. The system is already showing you that it has now what I call autocratic tendencies.
Right.
It has not only Trump, but the people that Trump is putting in place. They have those tendencies to actually become a one.
But autocratic, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I think a caveat in a tendency is that there is a tendency of racism that is associated with this, Dr. Bradley, because this is the same person, Donald J. Trump, who took out a full-page ad without having known any evidence in the Central Park Five and said they should be hung. Those 5 black men who were accused of raping a white woman in Central Park, the evidence exonerated them and found out that they did not. They found the person who did it. And even after that, so if he's saying he is so innocent, why can't he still come out his lips, take out a full-page ad, or even just when he's asked whether or not he thinks they're guilty or innocent, he can't put them in the same column as he claims he is so innocent, and that folks would fall for that.
Yeah, but the problem is that how many of our folks know that? How many of our folks will actually look at his? I was sitting in my office the other day, and I was actually at home, and I'm watching television, and he comes up. Number one, he's dominating the news cycle. So that gives him free advertisement. Right. That should give him free campaign.
Free live.
Exactly. So, he's doing what he did in the very first election.
Yeah.
So that's the one thing. The other thing is that when I look at his rallies, I'm not quite sure how many people are out there. I see the people behind him. Right. But whenever I see a person of color, be it that a black or brown,
it's usually the same one that they travel. Usually the same guy with that T-shirt on.
But my heart sinking. My heart is hurting. Because I'm saying to myself, this person is actually putting his own personal, issue over his people.
But see, the sad part to what you're saying, Dr. Bradley, and I apologize, that has been going on since the beginning of time.
I got it.
But go ahead.
I got it. Yeah. But the issue here is that this hasn't been going on.
Right.
This issue around abolishing our constitutional government was not on the table back in the day.
Right.
Today it is. So and this individual who's there loving will not care a hill of beans about them when she's in office.
Right. But here's the other part to what you're saying is that if you just peel away from that foolishness and the Trump, right, the Reign syndrome there, right, and when he talks, people are saying that the economy is not doing well. It's doing way better than people thought. We went through a recession almost because of Donald Trump not dealing with COVID, right? And how many people died and really shut down the economy, right? So you don't just turn the economy. You're an economist. You're prior to becoming a police officer. You just can't. It's not like your car. You turn it off and turn it back on, and it starts up, right? Sometimes you need a jump start because the battery has gone dead, right? So to say that in some way that this is all, if you look at this and have an honest assessment of since Joe Biden has taken office, regardless of party, just looking at the facts, right, that unemployment is lower than it's ever been. The economy, some countries, go take a look at some other countries who are still dealing with the fallout from COVID, right? Because they haven't been able to recover as well as the United States has. But also, so you're saying that he doesn't, and then you listen to Donald Trump. What policies does he discuss about helping your situation, right? The only policy he is a policy of grievance and revenge.
But if I'm a cult-like member of his movement, I'm gonna look at this from a very myopic, a very selfish perspective, and say I really don't care about Canada. I don't care about Europe. I care about America. I care about my situation. So so you get the sense of isolationism,
Right.
You
So
know,
let me
that's
just
causing a problem.
So let me just interrupt you there
Okay,
because I want to unpack what you just said. You say they care about their situation, and that's the point I'm trying to make here. What is he saying in his conversation that's dealing with that? He's talking about revenge and getting retribution against his perceived enemies and against a system that works for everyone else. He's in as part of it as well. But what are the policies that he's talking about?
But he's not talking about any policies.
Right, okay.
But you and I and Pastor Hobbs and other individuals who understand the system, who are educated, are going to pick that apart. But if I'm not actually just thinking to myself, well, I'm living check to check.
Right.
I'm still, you're talking about the economy. You're talking about 275,000 jobs created since May. I don't see that. You know what? when I go to the gas pump, it's still a $4.99. Well, if I'm in California, it's $8.
Right.
So I don't see it in my pockets. And so what I'm trying to say when I ask the question, what about our people? Our people tend to think individually. This is about me.
Right.
It's about me.
Right.
But in actuality, it's about us.
It is, and to your point, right? Gas. People understand gas is driven by demand, supply and demand. When COVID hit, gas prices plummeted. Trump tried to take credit for that, right? But the reason they plummeted is because everyone was at home. The world was pretty much shut down. So if you take hundreds of millions of cars off the road, kids are learning remotely. No one is traveling. Yeah, it was nice. Some days I used to drive into work because law enforcement is not non-essential. I was like, woo, I could drive in all 3 lanes because there was no one really out there.
Yeah. But again, if I'm not driving a car, all right, I don't hit that. I don't really have to worry about that piece.
Yeah.
But I'm still living check to check.
Yeah.
All right, it's a problem.
Yeah.
And I said here and I said again, you have shut down during COVID, your entire supply side of your economy.
Right.
It's going to take time to bring that back up. It's going to take time to actually fire up those mechanisms within the economy and get them rolling again.
Right.
The economy is like an aircraft carrier.
Right.
It doesn't turn on a dime. It stops and it's going to go 3 or 4 miles before you can actually turn it.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's what we're dealing with. And so
Right.
when people say, well, the economy is bad, what planet are you on?
Well, also,
I don't get it.
but when they say that Trump is this intelligent man, right, an economist, let's unpack that for a minute. Trump Airlines. How'd that work out?
Not well.
Bankrupt. The water, the water that he was selling. How'd that work out?
Bankrupt.
Trump University. How'd that work out?
Bankrupt.
Trump Steaks. How'd that work out?
You see this pattern?
The casinos down there. How'd that work out?
Bankrupt.
Right, and people think the Trump organization is this elaborate, hundreds and thousands of employees. It's less than 10 people that work for Trump. It's an office inside a building. It's not even. They don't even have enough people to fill the whole floor.
Yeah, but the thing is that he's a master at projecting what is not reality.
Exactly. Well,
projecting something that's not
that
reality.
Apprentice show that he was on NBC. That project people because he was in bankrupt then, and that's what helped him out financially. That's the reason why he did that show, because he needed the money, and he's out here grifting these people. Right? Every time he's using his criminality to exploit these people who are just naive enough to continue to he lies and embellishes. He claims he raised $400 million in those couple of $400 million. I mean, I'm not saying he has, I don't nowhere near $400 million. Every time Biden has a good campaign cycle, Trump always has to make it seem like he's much better.
Well, I was watching something, I'm not quite sure where it was, where he's walking out of this building and he's waving his hands, and then they have a back shot. There's no one out there. But from the front shot, it looked like he's waving his hand to a lot of people, but there's no one
remember
there.
the inauguration?
Yeah.
He claimed that he had the most people that ever, and then they showed the shot away from and then how empty it was, and then they showed it compared to when President Obama was inaugurated and how many people were there. It's always he's got to be better. This is someone who's a narcissist. His niece has said it, right? His other people have said it. People around him say it. He is not a good leader. Like yesterday, we were watching the 80th of the D-Day celebration, and it was very proud to see Joe Biden representing our country with the veterans there. And even those veterans who were there with him, some of them probably won't be here. They're in their late 90s. Some of them were over 100 years old, Dr. Bradley. You're a military veteran. I mean, you served this country, and Donald Trump stood on that same hollow ground and called the people who died for this country suckers.
That hurts me, man. That hurts me. Because, again, as you said, I'm a military veteran. You know, I served my 6 years in the military in the Army, 3 of which were, 4 of which was actually active, and the remaining was inactive, but I was still ready to put my life on the line for this country. So, as a police officer, when I saw my brother and sister officers being attacked on January the 6th, I just can't in my heart support someone who advocates for that type of behavior. Someone who will actually look at, and I said to my wife when that happened, I said to her, when you're in the military, you go in knowing that all give some, but some give all. And you have to respect those some who gave all.
Right.
And so to tell those individuals who are lying in their grave that you are a sucker because you actually put your life on the line and your life was taken because you were fighting for your country, to me that saddens me in my heart. I can't support anyone who actually go out and advocate and support that.
Right. And someone who got a deferral because he claimed he had bone spurs.
Exactly.
Right.
So
and none of his children have served in the military.
Yes.
President Biden's son died of cancer from toxic from a burn pit while he was serving our country.
Because I mean, when you're in the military, you don't question what you're doing. You do what you're told.
Right.
You know what I mean? And one of the things that we had in my unit, my purpose is not to question why, but it's to do or die. That's what we said when I was.
You say that again for people.
My question, my objective is not to question why, but it's to do or die.
Yeah.
That's what we did in Augusta, Georgia, in the 32nd Signal Battalion when I was there back in the 70s. That's how we felt,
right.
and that was ingrained in you. And so when I hear someone say that I'm a sucker because I actually was moving and that was motivating, and that's what I did to protect this country as a young man, I can't go out and then vote for you or anybody that supports you.
So, Dr. Butler, what do you say to these people like the Ted Cruz's, the Rubios, and there's a long list of them, and even recently the former governor of South Carolina there that was the presidential nominee there. Why am I drawing a blank on her? Nikki Haley, thank you. Who... And when it's convenient, told the truth. When Donald Trump was running the first time, Lindsey Graham and all them, what a real person. They identified the real Donald Trump. And now there's this sycophants, the red tie brigade and all of that they're going in and attacking the system. What do you say to people who see, because you can go back and play what they said. I know your lovely wife, that if someone insulted her in the way that Donald Trump insulted Ted Cruz's wife, his father, and that's a long list of them, and even Lindsey Graham, he has them kissing the ring. I mean, it's just disgusting them. But if someone were to disrespect your wife in the way that Donald Trump and then Nikki Haley, her husband, who is a military guy, and this where is he? He's out there defending our country. And then you turn around and say you're going to vote for him. I don't think there's a couch in your house that would be available for you.
I wouldn't vote for it. In fact, for me and my bride,
be grounds for divorce. Right?
Absolutely. I mean, that would be
the ultimate betrayal.
Well, actually, if he would insult my wife, I'd probably be in jail.
Right.
Because I don't play. Homie doesn't play that.
Right.
I'll be very honest with you. But just to think intellectually, I would not support him in no way, shape, or form. And then I say to people that look at this guy, hear what he's saying, and then go out and vote for him. How can you be disappointed when he's not doing what you want him to do?
Right. So
and the way that I feel about Republicans, first of all, when I go into the voting booth, any R means reject to me. I'm not going there because I don't like the platform that they're actually supporting. But on top of that is that you're lying in my face.
Right.
If you're lying in my face, what make me believe that you're going to do what you tell me you're going to do when you get to Washington?
Well, it's that saying, who you going to believe, me or your lying eyes, right? And there are still some good. So I don't want to paint a broad brush. We've had, because when Charlie Baker was here, I thought he was a very good. He was a Republican, but I thought he was very good, moderate, right? And even Liz Cheney, who I didn't agree with any of her, and that's the difference. Yeah. politics, you had Republicans, some, so difference of opinion, but never to the point where we have it here.
Yeah, but see,
this is not about ideas or bills. This is just a conspiracy, a lie, a Trump sycophant.
Yeah, but see, the thing is that that's a different level of Republican.
Right.
Now, in the past, if I agree with their ideas, then I would vote for them.
Right.
And I can see myself voting for a Charlie Baker, or I can see myself voting for a Liz Cheney if I agree with her policy. Usually, I don't agree with their politics, but if she says something, I say, "Well, I like that. I can support that."
Right.
Because I'm thinking independently. Although I do lean a little bit to the left, but independently, I'm saying to myself, you know what? If they have a good idea, but this MAGA movement within that's consumed the Republican Party is just not for me or anyone, in my opinion, that looks like me.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because they don't support people of color.
Right.
Period. I don't care if you're black, brown, purple, or blue. They do not support you. So
this is what I say, right? The hypocrisy in it, right? In that if it's about, George Santos, the former congressman from New York, right? Who's going to be going to trial, but who had committed all of these infractions and crime, right? So, and then the Congress voted to remove him from Congress because of his behavior, right? Well, Donald Trump has been convicted. So why aren't they out there yelling for George Santos, right? Who they stood by him long enough, right?
Point.
But you see what I'm saying here, right? But so he's saying that the system, but it's not. It's only corrupt if it's Donald Trump. So as you said so eloquently many times early on, sometimes you hear something, but it doesn't register because you figure that will never be the case. When you said everyone else was running for president, Donald Trump was running for king. And when you said it, I heard it, but it didn't register because I'm like, in this country, we don't have kings. So that's not a concern that I thought we would have to be dealing with. But you were so right, as you are quite often on this show. And so I'm looking at this now, and I'm saying, okay, people understand, if you understand history like those of us who pay attention to it, they say who don't learn from it are doomed to repeat it. As President Biden was saying that, do we need to come back and fight on those shores? Because with Putin, he's not going to stop there. And what brought us over there, why we had to commemorate D-Day, was because our allies were attacked. And we set up the NATO, right, and alliances. And it says if 1 foot of their land is threatened, we will put boots on the ground. Donald Trump is saying that Putin can take them, and if they don't, they're fair game. So what he's saying is that because he can't just destroy that NATO treaty, even though he thinks he can, he doesn't have those type of powers. That is not law. The folks over there are saying that they're afraid of Donald Trump. They're already building up with the anticipation that if he gets that,
which I don't think he's. My education tells me he's not going to make it. You know what I mean?
Me too.
I don't think he's going
to. Pastor Hobbs and I were. He was a little more worried. So
I don't think he's going to do it. However, if you have an issue with Russia, there won't be a shore. There will not be a Normandy in Russia. That they didn't have the power that we have today. There will be no need to land amphibious troops on the shore because there won't be any shore. So that's my second hit, and my third hit is that Ukraine is doing a masterful job in dealing with what we thought was one of the most powerful armies in the world.
It's like Trump.
I mean that's like a Benny Hill show.
Right.
But Ukraine is doing a masterful job. But what we need to do, in my opinion, this is one man talking, continue to supply them with the means to do so. Because if we do not, then our young kids, your children, my children, will be fighting this guy. Because what he's trying to do, for those individuals who may not know this history, he's trying to reconstitute the old Soviet Union, those borders. And Ukraine was one of the main participants, one of the main forces that Russia used to actually buffer themselves from the West. All right? And so but Ukraine has always seen itself separate and apart from Russia, you see. And so the fact that Ukraine is wanting to go into a democracy type form of government is a severe threat
to the status quo,
to Putin. Because now that means that Putin would have NATO and all these front countries that bordering his territory.
Right.
All right. And so he doesn't want to see that. So he's not going to stop at Ukraine if he wins it.
Right.
Poland is next.
Right.
And when Poland becomes next, Poland is a part of NATO.
Right.
And once Poland becomes next, then Article 5 kicks in,
Right.
which means
And to
that
your
there'll
point,
be
you know,
a civil
Switzerland,
war.
who's always literally neutral, they just became part of NATO
NATO,
because they're saying we want to make sure that if he comes after us, we have our big brother protection to come with us.
But this is the reason why we have to watch Russia and
Right.
its propaganda,
Right.
because Russia knows that NATO revolves around the U.S.
Right.
That's where the power. That's where NATO's
and he thinks
power
that
is.
Trump is. That's why they want Trump in there, so he can say he's going to stand down.
Exactly.
Right.
He's going to start interjecting false information.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Alternative facts
Yeah.
right into our politics, so we can get rid of Biden. Now you have Trump. He can run rings around
Right.
Trump because Trump doesn't have the history. Biden has the history. One
Right.
thing about age is you get wisdom.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, Trump is just as old. He's still dumb as a rock.
But he's dumb. So Biden doesn't have. Trump doesn't have the history.
Right.
And so what you have here is that you have two of the major countries who are trying to change the world order, China and Russia, uniting
Right.
to try to change the world order. It becomes easier when you have, a neophyte
Right.
in politics running one of the biggest military, most powerful, sophisticated
also,
military in the
to
world.
that point, someone on the and we're going to grab this caller. Someone from this country, the leader of this world, going on the national stage when Trump was president and saying that he believes Vladimir Putin just told me that he wasn't the one that was interfering in all that, and he believes him over our intelligence. That should shake people to their core. He's dismissing. Are you going to believe me or your lying eyes? But, to that point as well, is that during this whole thing, Russia was part of this alliance back then because Germany was attacking them as well. So they were fighting for the independence. And now someone like that is in there.
Russia refused to participate in the D-Day operation,
Right.
though. They had an opportunity to do it,
Right.
and they said no.
Right.
They were coming from the east, and that was over on the west. So they were saying, "Okay, we'll meet you in
so
Germany, but we're not going to be a part of this process."
Right. Wow. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable. Caller, you there?
I guess we were a little bit.
Oh.
Well, good morning. I'm sorry, Larry. No, I was going to say the whole thing is just a cult of personality in regards.
Is that the Rhodes Scholar?
Good morning.
Are you calling in from your AM radio? Because we can't hear you.
Oh no, I'm on the road.
Oh, okay. The Rhodes Scholars. He's on the
Those
road.
scholars on the road.
Yeah. What were you saying, my brother? Go ahead.
It's a cult of personality.
Yeah.
The fact that literally it's loyalty that he demands, and that's what he says. And people are going there like they're sycophants. Like all the Republicans that are auditioning to be vice president for him.
Yeah.
Like now, you can take everything that they said pre-COVID about him, and it's now the exact opposite.
Right. So.
From Liz Graham
Right.
to Mitch McConnell.
Right.
It's like they all announced they contort what their morals or what they stood for.
Right. Well, they have no morals, and that shows. But here's the other thing, too. You're talking about the vice president, right? The fact that his former vice president, who he told them that, should be killed for not being a blind loyalist, for not for basically, because Trump said he wants to get rid of the Constitution, and that Pence realized, to his credit, I don't give him much credit. Like I said, I agree with nothing but he did what constitutionally, not what he did what was right, because if he had a choice, he would have chose the other way. But he did what was constitutionally his duties to do was to certify the election in favor of Joe Biden, who had legally won the election. So basically what these people are auditioning for is their own execution, because if they don't go along with Donald Trump and break the law, I mean, how many people have to be indicted? Like just recently in Arizona, and I believe it was in Milwaukee. Recently, matter of fact, his secretary, his chief of staff was arraigned again in another state for their election interference.
Mark
Meadows was arraigned again, and the architect, the attorney there, he was just arraigned in Arizona as well. So, like they said, MAGA stands for Make Attorneys Get Attorneys, right? And so how many people have to go through the system to say that somehow it's the system that's corrupt and not all these people? I mean, this is where it's mind-boggling, because the one thing in this country, whether you agree with it or not, is that we have jurors of your peers. The evidence was presented there. People heard the evidence. That's why I'm in favor of having cameras in courtrooms, because that way people can hear from themselves if they're interested, and the other side can't put a spin, because you hear what comes out of people's mouths. You hear the jury. And these are the people who sat there every single day that the trial was in session and heard the evidence. There was no one there who testified, including Michael Cohen, that was a registered Democrat. These were all people at the hearing that they had on the January 6th. All the witnesses were people who worked for Donald Trump intimately, who supported Donald Trump. This was not a conspiracy. No one put a gun to that, but these people took their oath serious. They took an oath to uphold the Constitution, and they weren't going to lie. Donald Trump is saying you have to take a blood oath like the mafia to him, Rose. So, like I said, I don't know how he changed these people's lives, but to your point as well, Dr. Bradley, as a police officer, former now, I don't know how anyone in law enforcement or the military could support someone who will turn these people on, because Trump is only loyal to Trump, not even to any of his wives, as we could see, right? Not to God. Like I said, when you ask him a question about the Bible or something like that, he can't quote verse. When they asked him about which versions did he like, he said he liked both, and there was no two. It was just, I mean, this is how, these so-called Christians and all of that, someone who, taking away women's rights, someone who exploits women like they're trash.
But you got women supporting him. You got women when you look at his so-called rallies. You have women behind him. But, I don't know what he has over people.
Yeah.
I think about the Jamestown Jim Jones
type
approach.
Taking the right.
They'll take you drink the Kool-Aid.
Right.
But I don't know what it is. But it's like people wake up and see what this guy.
But see, this is why I say, Dr. Bradley, and I'm not saying this is everyone, but I think that's where this racism plays in place, right? Because this is more about. He's baked in, and he's got people riled up that those people are taking over this country. So people are looking past things in normal times that they would not accept this type of behavior. I mean, look, Bill Clinton was impeached for inappropriate behavior in the White House, right? So he was not a reputable, but he wasn't out there trying to get people to overthrow the government on his behalf.
Well, you see, Larry. The issue here is though, but Donald Trump is dealing with a group of people
sycophants
who are afraid.
Right.
See, when you have fear in this mixture,
and he's stoking it.
That's what is happening. I mean, fear is the fire.
Yeah.
And he just got a little poker, and he's just stoking it. Because what's happening here is that when people step back, think about this now. You're in a form of government that says the majority rules. Now, in America, they have tweaked it because you have these battleground states, and the battleground states consist of people less than population in the major states. So that's one thing. So you have that. And then you have people who are seeing America turn browner and blacker every day.
Yeah.
And then as they're turning browner and blacker every day, that majority is going up. Now, that majority begins to rule in a system that says the majority rules. What is preventing the majority from doing to me what my ancestors did to them? That's the undercurrent fear that people are dealing with. So when you're dealing with that level of fear, then things that are happening around you that you will normally reject, you're like, I don't care about that. I'm worrying about me.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's why a lot of people are gravitating towards this guy, because he's saying, turn off that faucet, because there are too many people coming up from the south. Notice that they're not putting any kind of restriction on the northern border, but it's on the southern border that they're most concerned about.
But even with that, when Trump says he talked like that, he talked about people from China, Japan, the South America. He was specific to people of color. That he didn't say people coming in from Ireland or Italy or England. He was specifically, so you got from the word the dog whistle. It's like when he talks with his hands all the time. Those people, that body language.
Yeah,
exactly. It's very telling.
And so that also translates into things like taking the rights of people to actually have children.
Yeah.
We can't say, well, we have this decrease in our population because our birth rate is not keeping pace with the death rate.
Right.
So therefore, that represents a decrease in our representation in society. Again, we have a form of government that says the majority rule.
Right.
All right. Now so how do we actually increase our representation? Well, you do it in one way or another. You actually stop the flow of immigration. All right. You prevent women. Because most women who are using abortion are white women. We prevent them from actually killing their children, and we encourage immigration from other countries that are more Caucasian than not. That's the issue here.
Right.
Because when you start looking at when you look at it from the fear perspective, you start to realize a lot of things that you normally would reject, you're not going to reject today.
So what I kind of hear you saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that Trump is not trying to win by addition; he's trying to win by subtraction.
Yes, he is.
That's
exactly what I'm saying. That's exactly what I'm saying. You know what I mean? And so he's basically saying, look at what's happening around us. But we don't have the rights of our forefathers. We have this thing called political correct. Politically correct means that I can't call you the N-word.
Right.
All right, without being chastised for it.
But even now, today it's fair game. You can say,
because they feel comfortable now
because
Trump's telling them that they can do it. You see what I mean? And some people of color are saying, well, it's all right that you do it to me.
Right.
Because Jim Crow was good for black people.
Well, it's funny you read, because that's what we're talking about in the 8 o'clock hour. The Byron Donaldson down in the Congressman, the black one down in Florida, was saying that Jim Crow was good for us, and we were more together during Jim Crow. We're going to great. See, the telepathy is working this morning, because that's what we're going to be discussing in our 8 o'clock hour. He says that the Jim Crow was good for us. But I wanted, I was listening to some of the, the late night comics, the hosts, and they were talking about one of them. It kind of jumped on me, and he asked the question, why didn't they put Donald Trump in an orange jumpsuit?
Because he's already orange?
It would be redundant.
He's already orange.
I just started cracking up. He said it would just be redundant. So, putting him in the orange jumpsuit. But no, we have a little humor here. But it's really sad that when you see people, black or white, who can act like they can equate with someone who has had a silver spoon, a gold spoon, actually, in his mouth, that he claims of all of this success, and his biggest thing is scamming people. These people, this money is not, the Republican Party is in a deficit. He's got his daughter-in-law now, and they've taken over the Republican Party lock, stock, and barrel. So you're going to see very few, that's why the people like the Mitt Romneys, the ones who are real conservatives, are fleeing, because there's no room for them. The Liz Cheney's, Adam Kinzinger's.
But that's the problem, though.
Right.
They're fleeing, but they're silent.
Right.
The only one that I have seen so far are two, Kinzinger and Cheney are the ones that are speaking.
Right.
The other ones are just saying, I want to be a part of this. But if you think about look at it from a history perspective. Germany, Hitler became powerful in Germany. One of the reasons why he did was because of the fact that they were afraid of the Jews. They were afraid of the Jews manipulating their economic system.
You see my point, right? The Spaniards, the people from Mexico. So now this is the modern. That's where he learned the book.
Yeah,
Right.
So when people are missing the boat on this, when they're talking about it, think about why he's being forgiven, why he's not held accountable. The reason for that is fear. It is fear that America is growing browner and blacker too quickly.
To that point, Doctor, how can you call yourself a good Christian, right? People who claim that I remember when one of the Kennedys, because of him being Catholic, that you can only be married once, and then and you can't be married a second time in the Catholic Church, because it's against the policy. Say marriage is sanctimony and it's for life. And so, how do you call yourself a good Christian and get behind someone like this? Even though he's doing your bidding. So it's just counter, and I get it, because he's saying he's going after those people who you think is worse than him, because it just defies all logic.
But brother, all I can say to you is that, as a man of Christ, and this saddens me. But you had churches like the Catholic Church and the Baptist Church supported slavery.
Right.
I mean, it's like you're reading scripture. What part of Exodus did you miss?
Right.
You know, so, and you supporting slavery
Right.
after you actually read about, you know, the whole issue of the Lord telling Moses, go get my people out of slavery, out of
Right.
bondage,
Right.
and now you supporting that. You're supposed to be a
great
Christian.
point.
And so when I listen to evangelists, when I listen to, you know, pastors talk in support of this guy, I go back to the Exodus and say, well, go back and read that book because you need to read it.
Yeah.
And then and I also say to myself, you know, God-loving people, churches, Rome supported.
Yeah.
I mean, the Jesuits, for instance. I'm talking about Georgetown University. They owned slaves
Yeah.
to support Georgetown and actually pay its expenses. They would sell slaves to cotton and sugarcane plantation owners down south, separating the families.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so that is all throughout history. It was that Christian
And that's the
people
reason why in a lot of these states they want to erase that part of history
That's
to
right.
make it seem like somehow the opportunities were available, and that the reason why we're in the shape like we're now is because we're lazy, right? We don't have this drive, right?
So, and this is my response to that particular piece. So if I'm lazy, why would you travel thousands and thousands of miles to get me, to bring me back to a country where people are actually living that's supposed to be working, that are working, that are not lazy?
Yeah.
Why would you go get lazy people to actually to employ them to
Right.
remove trees and toil the ground?
Well-
when you got people in the country who are not lazy.
I tell you, man, you are
make any
really
sense.
grabbing my mind, because I was just getting to say the story when you talking about that, and you talk about. I'm telling you, man, that's why I love you. My wife was at the farm yesterday with the girls. They went there to get some lunch and dinner actually, and they grabbed salad. And she was saying, you know, it's a farm and they sell food and stuff there right next to it. It's a Ward's farm, and she looked over in the field out there and she said, you know, Larry, all of the people over there working in that hot sun were people you could tell they were from the South America. You know, so to your point, right, that they can get them over there in labor. She said there was no one over there that looked like the people that owned the business or anything.
Nah.
And I'm like, if you put a sign out there advertising for Americans to go out there and work in that house,
They're not going to happen. You know what I mean? Because you know when you start looking at slavery, I know.